Hello, hello, and welcome to the Tim and Jim Show. I am Tim Sohn with Sohn Social Media Solutions here in the woods with the bears and the turkeys in Northeast Pennsylvania. And Jim, my trusty co-host and friend, where are you this fine day?
I'm in my basement in Marietta, Georgia. No turkeys or bears or rivers within walking distance like you have right behind you. So don't fall into the trees during the show. But very excited to have with us today Janette Speyer. And what's interesting, this kind of goes back to people understanding how social media can work. Janette and I originally met, in a sense, on Twitter. So we had been involved in Twitter chats. And so we initially, you connect on Twitter, then it goes to LinkedIn. And then Janette was a guest on Twitter Smarter talking about Flipboard. And so not only myself, but several of the people participating in the chat were just blown away by the information she shared with us. I mean, she converted me, within that hour chat to become a Flipboard user. And so she's going to tell us all about it. But first, Janette, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you first, Tim and Jim, that kind of rhymes together, for having me on the show. And I'm very excited to be here today. About myself, where do I begin? It's long, so I'll try and shorten it. I was born in Britain, grew up in Venezuela. I've worked in many different advertising agencies. I started off as a graphic designer working for Fortune 500 clients in large agencies. And then I got married and had children and decided I wanted to work out of my house before it was cool. And my husband and I, my husband who's behind me, have this little PR marketing firm. And we've been doing all kinds of different digital marketing strategies for our clients for several years now. And we specialize mostly in the whole foods, organic foods industry. But, we've also gone afar and outside of it anyway. And one of our favorite tools to use for our clients is Flipboard, so I'm going to talk to you about this today. I'm very excited to share some information.
Well, that is awesome. So, Tim, do you want to lead us off with question number one?
Absolutely. And before I do that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We're so excited to have Janette here today. Please let us know if you have any questions for Janette as we roll through this conversation. But Janette, what is Flipboard and how is it useful for businesses anyway?
So it's very interesting you asked that question. If you ask me, Flipboard is like a big library. Flipboard initially is an online digital magazine where you can take information from the web and put it in a little catalog magazine. And it's organized by topics. So you can look for information on Flipboard by topic. So if you sign up for an account, you pick 10 topics like sports, gaming, marketing, you will get the feed every day. It will feed you new news, right? But unlike the other news apps, this one is special in a way that you can create your own news and customize it to your clients or to your own reading needs. So in essence, and this is the shortened version, this is what Flipboard is. It's left? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry. I thought you were...
I was just with several thoughts. There's a lot of information. But what Flipboard is less known for, other than reading, is as a curation tool. It's incredibly powerful as a curation tool. So it enables you not only to collect and read news every day, but also to tell the news your way. So you don't have to be a journalist to tell your story. So say Jim is a Toastmaster. He can tell his story about Toastmastering. You're more about family business, PR, and marketing. You can tell your story, Jim, about PR and marketing. Tim, I'm sorry. Tim. Yeah, excuse me. I'm going to sit right up front. Your names are going to get crisscrossed here in this little brain of mine.
It's all good.
I apologize in advance.
No problem. And so and Janette, some of the things that I've found amazing, I mean, there's a podcast that you're even a part of, right? They're able to share podcasts on Flipboard. You created a Flipboard Twitter chat, FlipEDU chat, which is today at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I mean, I don't think people realize how much content other than just, if you want to call it a web link, you can put out there. And even to the point of, you've talked about how you're able to even bring in some of your social profiles into Flipboard.
Yeah, so let me take this question in parts. Let's start with the podcast because that's your specialty, right? So I don't officially do a podcast, but I've been a guest on many podcasts revolving on Flipboard. But there is a podcast out there specializing in Flipboard, and it's for FlipEDU, which is the section of Flipboard that it's for teaching, right? It caters to education. Right. This is run by Coach William Jeffrey. He's an assistant principal in a school in Texas, and he started this brainchild of this FlipEDU podcast, where he's trying to help people survive the challenges in education that everyone is facing right now. And so what he's doing is he's got this podcast. He's using technology mashup, so different apps, but all of this ends up residing in a Flipboard magazine. So one of the pet projects we all have secretly, besides, being in business, is teaching, using Flipboard for teaching, because we feel kind of like TikTok, some of these apps, if you introduce them into the schools to the children, not only does it help the children, but it's like this experiential discovery. And then it becomes a habit. So the children grow up and they use it in their daily life. So it's a very important part of Flipboard is to use this very important resources in a school.
Wow. That's, and I think I would have never have thought of that. Tim might have, because he's smarter than me, but,
no, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
So Janet, how can we use Flipboard? Because I know we're going to get more into education in a later question. How can we use Flipboard to promote our business?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I've used it. Okay, so you can put a shopping mall on Flipboard, at least that's in my brain. You can take your Amazon store. So say you have a little tiny business, and we work now in grassroots businesses because we like sort of the whole concept of the small businessman building, and it's kind of idealistic, rather than the bigger companies that have all the resources in the world. But it works for them too. It works for everyone on every level. Okay, but you can say you have a shop or a store or a series of stores. You can put your shops and your departments on Flipboard magazine. So say you're Macy's, right? And you've got the dress department. It's a Flipboard magazine. The jewelry department. It's a Flipboard magazine. So collectively, you have like a whole mall. All those magazines can be put into what's called a metazine. So right there, you have your whole store on Flipboard. With that, you can integrate your social media accounts. You can then integrate your links and encourage people to shop. Also, Flipboard has an advertising tool, which you can use. And I've just started using it, and I love the advertising formats. It just sort of pushes you into informational and experiential advertising. So you can advertise it, or you can use it for PR. And one of the things we've done is used it a lot for collecting information for a company to entice investors to invest in the company. So like you're collecting PR articles, social media articles, information that investors want to know, how the company functions, PowerPoint presentation. Well, not PowerPoint, but SlideShare presentations and Prezi presentations work really well in Flipboard. And so with that, now you have your entire business on Flipboard. So that's the Flipboard business side of things.
Wow. Tim, I don't know about you, but it's like this stuff is just, it's mind blowing. So, Janet, you're you keep yourself busy for a long time. And I think what I really find fascinating about this too is that with everything that's going on, this makes it so much easier for people to connect and look at things visually. Because, I do know, as an example, your Flipboard magazine is a link. And one thing I would encourage those of you that have a Flipboard magazine, please share those links in the comments on whatever channel you might be watching on, so we can follow you. And I know Janet will share some of her links later as well. But it's the fact that you can create that curated thing. And I would have never thought of Amazon, because I know there's a lot of Amazon sellers out there. And what a great way to help small businesses. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I was wondering, Janet, would it make sense to create a Flipboard highlighting like videos like from a YouTube channel or something like that?
Absolutely. So this,
Ooh.
say you have the Tim and Jim show, and you've got like a series of videos and a series of shows, and in between that you've got blogs, and then you've got Twitter posts. Boom, Flipboard magazine, the Tim and Jim show.
Ooh.
So, you know, so you want to invite me back, or you have another guest, send them the Tim and Jim show Flipboard magazine. Or you can actually put it in a Storyboard, which is the new Flipboard thing, which they're going to be launching. I think they're rolling it out slowly, but that is like a mini version of a Flipboard. It's like, I don't know if you've seen these black Flipboards, Jim, that are so gorgeous,
Yes.
where they have like 10 articles or 20 articles, and it's a quick zap, you know, and those can go into a magazine. So you can do all kinds of creative things, go to town on it. you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds
That
like
is really cool.
we've got some homework, Tim.
Don't
Yeah.
get overwhelmed. I'm going to try and keep
giving us
things
homework.
simple. Yeah. Actually, it's not homework. I like to say it's like a your time. It's a fun time. The way I see Flipboard, it's like your time alone by the fire. You're watching a TV show. You've got the news in the background. You're flipping and you're adding and you're creating and you're, oh wow, somebody said something cool. Why don't I make a magazine? So yeah, it's kind of like that. It's a me time type of thing. It's fun.
So we did get a vote from Linda Ray. She says we need a Tim and Jim magazine. So
Yes, do a
Well,
Tim and Jim magazine. Yeah, I think that
Now,
would be fun.
Can you do that with Facebook live videos as well that have finished? Would you be able to?
I would not terribly user-friendly with Facebook, very user-friendly with YouTube. Okay? So my flip tip, and I know I have to say some more later, but I'm going to do it now, is when you put your links in, make sure that they show up. So just view everything. Sometimes they fall out, so keep putting it in. And if it doesn't work, report it to Flipboard CS, because they will take care of you. They're really good with their customer support. And it's better if you go on Twitter. Now, I hope they don't kill me over there for referring millions of people, but you know, it is a good idea to, if something's kind of like not quite there, I would report it. But I've had success with YouTube and Vimeo, better than Facebook. Not terribly good with Instagram. I mean, I put in the links, but sometimes they fall out. So there's my flip tip. Oh, there's Gail.
Hey, Gail. So
Hey,
we're gonna go real quickly with a word from our sponsor, StreamYard, who maybe they need to create a Flipboard, and then we're gonna get back to the questions. So we'll be back with you in about 15 seconds. It always makes me dance.
Oh, are we back?
We dancing? Are we doing the TikTok dance? Oh, sorry, we're on Flipboard now. TikTok, another session.
So Tim, would you like to ask the next question?
Absolutely. So, Janette, how do you tell your story on Flipboard?
Well, that's a personal question, isn't it? Each person has an individual story.
Right.
I know, right? I caught you a little off guard there. But yeah, how do you tell your story? So each person is a unique experience. Each company is a unique experience. Each teacher is a unique experience, and each student is a unique experience. So if you're teaching, for example, right, one of the things you can do with your students is your field trip experience, your backyard field trip experience. I got to be relevant today. What's in your back garden or on your balcony or from outside your window, if you're in an apartment, how do you see that on Flipboard? So you invite people to tell their story, and there's different ways to do it. So you can do it on a blog. You could do it using Twitter tweets. There is a tool on Flipboard called the Compose tool, which you can use for little quick quips and comments, like quotes. Like you have in a magazine, you've got the article and a quote. Well, that's what the comments function is for. Then you can take pictures on your iPhone and you can put them in the Flipboard, and now you've got a whole story. And then videos, of course.
That was it was nice when Terry and I will tell you, Tim, one of the things that I've found very quickly is how friendly and helpful the Flipboard community is. Terry
Oh.
Porter, who is someone I know Janet works with a lot. She had a Zoom call with me and walked me through some steps on things I could do with my Flipboard, and that was a lot of fun. I learned how to keep my image on my magazine the same, which right now is like the iOS 14 thing, because I'm really excited about that. Tim, you really need to get an Apple phone, but I digress.
I just want to give Terry a shout out. It's her birthday today. If she's on and she's listening, happy birthday,
yes,
Terry.
happy birthday, Terry.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, so that, yeah, and I think, right, we like to tell stories. People like to hear stories. So those are some great points. And this is different than the storyboards that are coming. Now, how are those storyboards going to be, say, different than what we, it's like everybody seems to be coming out with stories. I mean, I think LinkedIn is getting ready to start rolling them out. I don't have them yet. I don't know if you do, Tim.
I don't, not yet, no.
What would you say to that, Janet, in regards to storyboards?
So I don't know what LinkedIn's doing with storyboards, but Flipboard storyboards, it's like a long black panel and you can put in different articles. So it's a shorter version of a Flipboard magazine. So a Flipboard magazine can hold up to, I've seen them with 5,000 articles, which is, in my opinion, a little unmanageable. But the one of the things I like about storyboards, besides the fact that it's very elegant, it's also it shrinks and it's portable and you can put it in other magazines. But there's sections. And this is something the community's always been screaming for, is these sections, So like, for instance, my storyboards, I go to town on the sections. Like I've had a storyboard called Staycation Resort. And I put in the different things you can do while you're at home with your family. So I've got indoor exercises and I've got bathroom spa, kitchen fine dining, things like that. And I'm able to put these little sections in to sort of give an experience of what it's like celebrating a vacation in your own home. So that's the kind of thing that a storyboard can do. I've seen other curators like Terry, for instance, who I'm seeing over here. Thank you, Terry, for being here. She's an expert at these storyboards. She's got a whole segment on desserts. So if you want to eat virtually, you should go visit Terry Porter's. It's at Porter2. She's got a great Flipboard magazine with all kinds of great magazines. She's a great photographer. So yes. So that's the storyboards in a nutshell. So they're rolling them out slowly, and it's only available right now on the desktop. So you'd have to sit on your desktop and, put in your links and create your sections. But the results are amazing. Another feature is the stats. You can check your stats. So when you have storyboards and you open your Flipboard, you'll see in big letters as you open your desktop feature, the stats. And it's got these crazy, amazing readership stats. And it's like a real thing boost for the day. Oh, okay, what am I going to do today? Let me open Flipboard storyboards and see I've got 200,000 readers. Oh, okay, I think I'm good today. I'm going to have a really good day. Imagine for a brand or for a school. Imagine students looking at that. Yay, teacher. It's just a feel good, kind of like the trophy that you actually won.
Yeah. And that kind of leads to our next question, Janet, and that tell us about Flipboard's role in education and how that maybe has, I think even more so now, is probably even more important.
Oh, yeah. So I'm not an educator, as you all know. I make a point of saying that because I want the people that are experienced, like Michael P. Toothman and Josh Allen and Terry's little granddaughter, actually, who's a student that does her own Flipboards. And of course, William Jeffrey, who's got his podcast that you have to follow. These are the guys that are trailblazers, but it's very important for all of us to help them and push them along, because for students, Flipboard is your library. So we don't have access to a library today. We're stuck at home and parents have to work, let's face it, okay? So we need to keep our children busy. If you have them with permitted websites, okay, we got to be, the PG-13 has to come into play here, because there's, with Flipboard does have a lot of websites like, publications like National Geographic and, copacetic ones, PopSci, that are really good for children. So these are the ones where you give them these 3 publications, say, okay, make your own Flipboard and, supervise once in a while. That will make them learn. It helps them go online to, create their own Flipboard. They learn by curating, like Terry's granddaughter has done. And then, like she's done a science Flipboard. If Sherry's got it handy, please share it because I don't have it handy. But you see, this is a 12-year-old that's done her own on her own, just gone and done her science research and put it in a magazine. So I'll bet you she's going to grow up to be a scientist. So just the role of learning and research and discovery for a young child that's stuck at home is incredible. Plus FlipEDU, it's flipboard.com, FlipEDU, at FlipEDU, sorry. And it's got like a collection, a library of magazines, which is PG-13, perfectly safe for children, that they can read. It's got history magazines, geography magazines, virtual tours, virtual libraries, everything you want. So if you want to park your kid in front of a Flipboard magazine, they can curate their own. I think that's like an amazing task.
That sounds like
awesome.
a great idea, Tim, for you, because then your kids will.
Yeah, definitely. Especially our 8-year-old.
Yeah. And I think it's our responsibility, even though we're business people, it's our responsibility to make sure that our children, get educated. And it's very tough right now.
Yes.
So what better than a Flipboard magazine? So that's why we're all very involved with EDU, and people say, well, what about the business community? I'm still here for you, I promise. But also I'm thinking of your children.
Well, and I think even to your point, I mean, a business can educate people about things, right? And it doesn't always have to be about the product or service, but educating people about things. And I think even with everything that's that's gone on, I mean, with the social justice, I mean, there's been some amazing magazines created. I know you share them, Janet,
Mm-hmm.
and just helping all of us understand what's going on, history, what we can do to help. I mean, and I'm actually now I'm gonna have to go dig deeper, Janet, because my wife and I both we're really getting into the whole foods and organic, and so you're probably going to give us some good ideas for things we can eat.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I think that's great.
One of my pet projects. And speaking of, for lack of a better word right now that I can't think of, but activism, or maybe not so activist, but more educational again, with some of the movements going on today that are very important. That, it's not a political thing. It's more like, let's learn, let's support, and let's learn. You can, Flipboard is again very much on board with education and helping people understand different cultures, diversity. They're very good with that. I'm very open to that. So again, it's a platform, any cause, whether it's an illness or whether it's environment or whole foods, organic foods, or just something personal, you can use Flipboard for to tell your story. Like I have an orphanage that I've been supporting in Cambodia, and we've created Flipboards to help the kids get an education. There's street kids that are put into this house, and now there's 4 schools. But when we started, it was only 17 kids that were barefoot. And now, and it's not me that started it. It's this wonderful man named Mr. Samith, and he's in Cambodia. He can use everyone's help at some point because the COVID has taken a beating. But yeah, he's got these children that otherwise would be on drugs, and Flipboard magazines. I've done magazines for them to help the teachers that are volunteers help in the classroom.
Right. And we have a question from Linda Ray, and she goes, since I've not heard of Flipboard, is this like Pinterest? How does one differentiate this platform from others to know how to leverage this particular platform? And she goes, I know there's always a new platform that emerges, but Flipboard's actually, what is it, like 10 years old?
Flipboard's celebrating its 10th birthday, and I don't know if it's this week or next week or when. But anyway, to answer Linda's question, it is compared to Pinterest, but it's not like Pinterest because Pinterest has boards, and it's more you pin the boards, and it's different images, and it's like a collection, like a scrapbook, okay? And I hope I'm not upsetting anyone, but to me, it feels more like a scrapbook. And I've used Pinterest a lot for collecting ideas. But I switched to Flipboard because it was easier for me to see on the phone, because I flip or I scroll, and it's one image, one idea, right? So it depends on how you think. So for me, I like Flipboard because it's easier for me to see one idea at a time. So like if I'm decorating my backyard, I put everything in a Flipboard. But then again, you can use the same principle to put them all in a Pinterest board. It depends how you read. I personally feel more comfortable with Flipboard. It's just an easier read. It's a little less cluttered,
Right.
And to me, it's easier to use and easier to share. Very easy to share a Flipboard magazine.
And it's interesting because recently Facebook came out with a way that you can share your collections, which to me sounds like they're somewhat trying to imitate what Flipboard is doing. Because if you create a collection of a certain subject, now people can watch it. But I don't know that it's as visually appealing and easy to use as Flipboard is. It looks like Terry gave. This is the one? It's
yes,
chemistry articles that seem cool. Yeah, I could have used that in high school.
That's very personal. It's her own words. It's done, a 12-year-old child. Well, she's not a child anymore, I guess. So she's 12. We got to be relevant here. But we're all very proud of her.
Right.
I know it's Terry's granddaughter, but we're all really, really enthusiastic. And then there's another person you should follow. It's Lynn White. Lynn White's son, Peyton, is 20 years old, and he's a Flipboard genius. He's autistic. And he was homeschooled because he has, I'm not going to call that a disability because he's a genius and he's perfectly capable, but he's brilliant. He's curated his own Flipboard magazines. And again, I will share his magazines with you. Is there a way I can share after the chat?
Because yes, you can just put it in the comments and we'll be happy to share it out with everyone.
Yeah, because I do want you to follow Peyton White.
Absolutely.
And Lynn White, awesome is mom. And and Peyton's Year of Awesomism or Team Awesomism. Awesome. They're absolutely wonderful. And Peyton also is someone we're very proud of in our little community because he's such a wonderful person when you meet him. It's like, you're like, wow, a role model for all of us.
And Terry said that there's so many great healthy food magazines on Flipboard. So So definitely looking into that. And Linda also said, wow, 10 years. I know, right, Linda? It's hard to believe sometimes there's those things that in some people's radar it's hidden, and it's like so I think I remember seeing it a long time ago, but I just never really knew because that's the problem, right? There's so much noise sometimes in social media that people don't know where to go. And so I do like the fact that you've kind of, as I've been learning from you in the community, how you can really start to kind of, put things together. And, it's just that I love that term you use of curation.
And here's a little fun flip tip for you on Flipboard every day. And this will convert anyone. They've got a section called the Today section. So if you're on your phone, to the top left corner, where it says for you, right next to it, it says Today. Click on that, and they feature the best magazines of the day with the topic. So you'll get Lego, which is great for the kids. You'll get games. I'm a big believer in learning through gamification. So you've got the game apps. And then you've got the publications like National Geographic and Pop Sugar, Pop Sci. You've got all of those. And then you've got the news, obviously. And so they have every day a new section of magazines, which to me, it's like going to, when you go to Barnes & Noble and you're reading the magazines and you feel guilty for reading them because you haven't paid for them. Well, you can read these for free. Just hang out there. It's like being in Barnes & Noble and you're hanging out and there's, oh, wow, look at this. Oh, look at these great vegan recipes and so on. It's just amazing. I love that section.
And there we go.
Go on it after this.
So yeah, you can follow.
Terry, thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Yeah.
She's just shared Lynn White's,
Yeah. And then she goes, Flipboard was Apple's App of the Year in 2010. That's right. There was a story. I mean, Steve Jobs was very interested in what Flipboard was doing. I think, it's unfortunate that with his passing, you wonder if more may have come of it. But it definitely works great on my iPad and my iPhone, and I even am able to use it on my Mac desktop. But I think it works fine on Windows. Yeah. Go ahead, Terry. No, after you.
No, it's just it's very beautiful app, and one of the things that characterizes Flipboard is simplicity. It's very, very, very simple, and that's a little bit of what's going on. Is the CEO says, that clutter. There's so much clutter on the websites that he wanted to create something that was just simple. You see a few elements, and your brain can register it. It filters out the noise, and that's why Flipboard is, to me, why I've subscribed, why I'm a fan, why I want to tell everyone about it.
Right. So Tim, do you want to ask our final question of the day?
Absolutely. So Janet, could you share some flip tips with us?
Flip tips. I'm going to keep these simple. Download Flipboard, collect a few topics that you like. Go on it every day and get a sense of how it feels to you. Start reading on it, start looking at it. Don't create a magazine until you feel comfortable, until you get the hang of it. So look at the Today section, look at Mags We Love, hashtag Mags We Love, follow that. You can get some inspiration from all the curators. And then from there on, you can start your first magazine, and you can go to my YouTube channel. It's Janette Speyer on YouTube. And there's these simple videos that will tell you 1, 2, 3, you've got your Flipboard magazine, and start curating something that you really love. You'll enjoy it. And I think that's the easiest one I can give you. And then it gets more complicated from there. Oh, and of course, in honor of Terry's birthday, do not forget to put a beautiful cover, one element covers, no text, no tag, nothing, just one element in the cover.
Oh, wow. That maybe you can send us one to use.
Okay, I will send you, different image sources like Flickr and,
Yeah, and I like that you can use your own you can use your own photos as well. I think that's really, really neat. Yes, and Gail said she needs to get back to your videos. So, Janet, this has been amazing. And so I've got here some of the best places to connect with you, right? You're on LinkedIn, definitely on Twitter. Don't forget to follow her on Twitter. And then also on Flipboard. Now, what do they find you on Flipboard at Janette Speyer?
At Janette Speyer, yeah. So if you do flipboard.com/@Janette Speyer, you'll find me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Tim, who's our guest next week? Do you know?
I do. Our guest is actually someone who was commenting before. Linda Ray is going to be talking about financing for small businesses, which is a topic that's, I think, extremely relevant right now. Yes. So excited to have Linda on next week.
Yes. And so don't forget, guys, if you're on Twitter, check out the FlipEDU chat. It's every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow, my co-host, Tim, why don't you tell us what you've got going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jim. So tomorrow, I am hosting an episode of the Family First Show, which is another show that I do where I interview parents who are also entrepreneurs about how they juggle work and life. So my guest for tomorrow, her name is Arlette Hardy, and I actually met her a number of years ago at a conference called the Build Your Influence Summit here in Pennsylvania. So it'll be great to catch up with her and learn about how she goes about juggling work and life as we are all trying to navigate the situation at hand. So I'm excited to have that conversation. I haven't talked to her in a long time. I used to sit next to her at this conference, so it will be great to catch up with her and we can all learn from each other as well.
Very cool. And where will that be live, Tim?
Yes, thank you, Jim.
Where?
Yes. It will be on the Sown Social Media Solutions Facebook page, on my LinkedIn channel and YouTube. So any of the things.
The things.
Yes.
The things.
Well, if you didn't catch it, if you caught us on replay, don't forget to leave some comments. We will go through them and answer them. And Janet will be dropping some helpful links. If you have a Flipboard magazine, please drop that link in the comments so we can follow your magazine and learn about some of the great stuff that people are doing out there. thank you again, Janet and Tim, and thank you everyone for joining us. And we hope you all
Thank you
have
so
a great
much.
week. You're welcome, Janet. Bye-bye.
Thank y'all.
Bye. Thank you.